But right now, let's talk about the extraordinary numbers. It's 950,000 people who've applied for benefits on universal credit in just the past fortnight as the coronavirus pandemic and the lockdown has worsened. Alfie Stirling is head of economics at the New Economics Foundation, a think tank looking into this, and joins us now. Good morning to you, Alfie.
Good morning.
These figures are really heartbreaking, aren't they? We know that the government, Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, announced so much help for people, whether it's businesses, the employees, the self-employed, trying to offer to pay the salaries of staff who are furloughed. But that hasn't stopped so many hundreds of thousands of people losing their jobs. But the big question now is whether or not the universal credit system can actually cope.
That's right. I mean, it really is heartbreaking. It's horrific to see. And to put this into context, it took 3 years after the 2008 financial crisis for the unemployment count to rise by 1 million people. Now, that was clearly an unprecedented crisis in and of itself. We've seen new claims to universal credit rise by 1 million in just 2 weeks. That is what we're dealing with at the moment. Now, the two numbers aren't entirely comparable. We're seeing at the moment, applications to universal credit, they're not necessarily successful. There may also be an undercount of all the people currently unemployed. But nonetheless, it really shows you the extent to which what we're seeing right now is truly unprecedented. And I think the key problem is actually that, whereas in 2008 we were reacting too slow to a crisis that was in the banks, and we were too slow to realise it was a crisis in the banks, which meant that the response was delayed and didn't have the effects it should have done. This time around, we've been too slow to realise the crisis is going to be in our social security system, and we haven't done enough yet to address that.
Well, indeed, we know that the service is already creaking with obviously the long delay, 5-week delay to get your payments through universal credit, because it's sort of live information about what employers have just been paying you, and we know that's overstretched. And we know, I've got a very good friend who works in a job centre. They are obviously trying to recruit staff desperately and getting people back to work on the front line to process all these claims. They've barely been able to process the claims they've been dealing with when times have been good. There is likely now to be a knock-on effect with lots of mistakes being made, lots of people really not being able to get their hands on the cash they need to get them through the next few weeks and months, with so many people. I mean, we're looking at 50,000 claims normally in a week, 950,000 in just 2 weeks. That's an extraordinary extra burden.
No, that's right. It's normally less than 10,000 a day. Now we're seeing more than 100,000 a day. And as you say, the system was creaking before, and we've had over the last 2 years huge problems with people getting their payments late, even later than the specified 5 weeks, which is in itself a big problem. What we're saying at the New Economics Foundation is we do need now a third new system to be brought in place alongside the two schemes that were already out there, which is the job retention scheme for employees and the self-employed income protection system for the self-employed. We need a third system, a minimum income guarantee, which basically catches everyone who's falling through the cracks of the other two systems, either because people have lost their jobs before government intervened, or because they're going to see a drop in income over the next few weeks before the other schemes kick in. And this new minimum income guarantee, it can use the existing universal credit apparatus. So there's an advanced payment system in universal credit, but we need to suspend the means testing. So we don't need to wait for employers to report income. We don't want people to have to pay back the advance payment. It should be underwritten by government. And it needs to be sufficient to live on, and that means paying adults around at least £220 a week, which is what the minimum income standard tells us is the minimum for an adult outside rents. And those are some very quick, immediate reforms to universal credit, which make a huge amount of difference if the political will was there to do it.